Hey guys, welcome to this video. We're going to learn how to design a database. So we're using we're using MySQL Workbench. So you're going to want to go to Home, and after Home, you're going to want to click on File up here. This is going to look different. I'm using a Mac. You might be using a PC, but it's pretty much the same thing. Hit New Model, and after you choose New Model, you're going to choose Add Table right here. So you're going to click Add Table. Double click on it, and you are going to give it a table name. So let's say that in this case right here, I will call mine maybe I'll type it right. I'll call mine product, and I'll give it some information here, some column names. So for product, I'll call it product ID integer. Let's make this bigger here. There we go. All right, moving on. So we have product ID, we have product name. We'll call it varchar 50. Try to move my mic up here. All right, 1 second. So now we have the varchar 50 here, and so we need some more fields for our table. So what we're doing here is I'm teaching how to design a database by using a design view, and then you'll take that design view and you'll produce it into source code without having to type it out. But we'll learn how to do the other way as well. So product name, we need a product description, and this will be a varchar 50 as well. Perfect. We need a product price. And this will be a decimal. And lastly, we need a category ID. And this will be an integer. All right, so then I'll click on this, and now I have my product table. So that's step 2. Step 3 is we need to design a category table. So I'm gonna click Add Table again. And I have to give it a name, so I'll call it categories. And then I'll come down here and I'll use category ID, just like what we used over there. And we'll create something called category name, and that'll be a varchar 50. Perfect. And then we'll do category description. And that itself will be a varchar 50 as well. Perfect, excellent. So now I'm going to close out of here, and we have 2 tables. The next thing that we need to do here is we need to set up a foreign key constraint. So what a foreign key constraint is, it's a way that 2 tables talk to each other. Okay, so in order for these 2 tables to communicate with each other, they need to have a common ground per se. So this example, we'll use the product table. So we'll have a foreign key constraint between that. So let's do this. Click on products first. And at the bottom here, we have foreign keys. And we're just going to click on it here, double click on it. And I'm going to call it product. Actually, I think I could reference it. Hold on 1 second. No, so let's do this. Product underscore category underscore ID underscore FK. Now, what you're going to do here is when you're setting up these foreign keys, you need to have a common name, and it should end in FK for foreign keys, so that way later on whoever's looking at the table, they'll understand what that means. We will reference the name of our database. We didn't change it. We could have changed it. Actually, if you edit schema, instead of calling it MyDB, you could call it something else. You could call it whatever you want to call it. You could call it, if you want to call it movies, you could call it movies. If you want to call it school, you could call it school. I'm going to call it school and see if it'll let me keep it this way. All right, so now if I go and reference, oh, it doesn't like that. So let's click this out real quick. And let's go back into category table. See if it changes it for me. It does. Okay, so I changed my schema to school. I should have mentioned that. So let's type it again. Product underscore category underscore ID underscore FK. All right, so now we're going to reference the table. And what we're going to say is we're going to say categories. And then over here, we need to choose an ID that represents category ID, which is the category ID. Simple. All right. So let's go ahead and click out of this, and that references that. So what we're going to do is set up two designs. Okay. So two tables. That's the first table. Second table will be more information, because we want these guys to talk to each other. But for what we're doing here, we're just setting up. We could click on categories. We get a foreign key. We're just doing our product key, so that works good. All right. So next step. So we did our tables. We did our constraints. Click Add Diagram. All right, so now you're going to come over here where it says Tables, and you're just going to drag one table out at the same time, and then we'll grab Products. Now you notice how they link together right away? That's because we set that reference up. By setting up the reference, it does it for you. If you don't set the reference, you have to come in here and know what all these guys mean. Okay? All right, perfect. So that is the first one. All right, so let's go ahead and close this. Well, let's save it first. We'll say it's our category design. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to come back to home. We are going to create a new one. Well, if we create a new model, it'll be the same thing. We can create customers and so forth, and it'll do the same stuff. But let's talk about. Let's set up another one, a more extensive one. So let's go back to home. Let's go to new model, and we'll change the schema here. We're going to make it school as well. Perfect. And we're going to go click Add Table, and we're going to add a table called Customer. And here we're going to add customer ID, integer. We're going to add email. We'll keep it varchar 45 for now. First name, keep it the same. Last name, keep it the same. Billing address. Oh, I think I put too many I's in it. BILLING, address. ID, we're gonna make it an integer. And last but not least, well, shipping address. ID, integer. Perfect. So close that out. We have that table set up. Now we're gonna set up a table for addresses. So double click on that. Address. And we're going to do address ID. We're going to do street. Now we'll keep it 45. So we got to go. City. Now there's these guys I didn't talk about, but we'll talk about those when we write the code. City, state. Just going to make this a char too because it shouldn't. We're going to use abbreviations. Postal code. We're going to make that one we're going to go with 10 with a hyphen. And lastly, country code. Country ID, I'm sorry. Perfect. Excellent. So let's close that out. Excellent. So now we have those set up. So now we're going to add another table call this countries. And this one right here is just going to be country ID, integer, and then we're going to have a country name. And we'll make this one a little bit longer because countries can have larger names in the United States. All right, so now we want to pull up the customer table. I'm going to go down to foreign key constraint. We're going to name this one billing, FK for foreign key. And we're going to reference the address. And over here, we're going to reference billing address. Oh, where'd it go? Perfect. And then over here, we're going to do shipping. Kind of see where we're going here. And this one here is going to be address as well. And it's going to be shipping address ID. Perfect. So now we have those constraints set up. What else do we have? We have to do countries. We'll call country FK. And where else do we have country at? Countries right here. And what are we going to reference? Country ID. Perfect. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so you know what we're going to do here is we're going to add a new diagram. Double click. We should have bigger this time. So tables, just the address out there, countries out there, and customer out there. So as you see, countries is living on its own. It's not linked to these guys, and that's fine. This right here is a one-to-one relationship. If it was connected to this, it'd be one-to-many relationships. All right, so the output consists of 2 lines, customer address, blah, blah, blah. All right, so let's see what else. We got a little bit more to build this, so we're building a nice environment here. So let's see what I missed here. All right, just 1 second, bear with me. We're building these out, these diagrams. So one of the things I should mention, we have something called entity. And so what is an entity? It's a thing, person, place, unit, object, or some other type of item about which data should be captured and stored in the form of properties, workflows, and tables. So that's your entity. And then you have an attribute, which contributes to tables. So if we go back to our our environment and say we did address, this would be your attribute. Your instance is the set of memory structures that manage the database. So a database is a set of physical files on a disk is created to create database. So that would be your database schema right here. And then we have the entity relationship ER modeling, and that's what we're doing here is creating a model design of our environment. It makes it easier to be able to pull up this design and be able to look at what you got, who links up, and so forth. So that's your model design. Also, there's something called referential integrity. So it refers to accuracy and consistency of data within a relationship. So in a relationship, data is linked between 2 or more tables, and this is achieved by having the foreign key that we set up here is an associated table. So it references the primary key, if there is one, and the foreign key. So this right here would be address ID would be considered our primary key, and same thing here for customer ID. But we came up with a foreign key constraint, and that would be our other way of connecting our environments together. Those would be the 2 common grounds where they have like a common denominator of each other. So think of it as a Facebook friend. You have a Facebook friend, you're friends with them, so you can see who they're friends with, or vice versa if they don't have it blocked. And that's only because you're linked to them. But their account was private and you didn't have you are not Facebook friends with them, you won't be able to see it. And that's kind of how this works here. You also have a foreign key constraint. So it's a field or a collection of fields in which a table refers to the primary key as another table. So in a nutshell, we could have a constraint here, like for countries, we could come in here and make sure that only one country could be entered in. So let's say that someone went and entered the United States in 4 times. Why would you want it 4 times? It would be confusing. We could build a constraint that prevents that from happening. Another thing is, another constraint can be, is if one table is the parent and the other table is the child. So let's say that you have customer and address, for example. So when the tables get added in first, customer is where it has to be entered in first. So if you do an insert into address, it would say, it would give you some type of crazy error message. But basically what it means is it's the child and it knows that something else is the parent. So the parent would have to be entered first before the child records. Sometimes what happens is, and also when you go to delete the records, you have to delete directly from the parents table versus the child table. If you don't, then what will happen is it'll give you an error message and it won't let you purge it because you didn't purge the parent. Now here's what happens. Common times what will happen is you'll go in and you'll purge all the parent stuff, but you forgot to purge the child data because it's not, well, it is recommended, but it's not, it doesn't give you a message saying, hey, you know what, you forgot to do it. So then what happens is those records stay out there and they're called an orphan record. So an orphan record is the concept of a database relationship. It's when the record that is the child record does not get purged, so they stay out there and they're called orphans. So there's normalization. It's a process used to organize data into tables and columns, and kind of like what we're doing here. So if we had one database and it had all this information, all this information, all that information, that's typical. It does happen. In order to break it out, we would normalize it. And what we're doing here is a normalization. We're putting it into a more consistent pattern. We have a table that's all customers. We have a table that's all addresses. We have a table that's all countries. We have a table over here is all phone numbers and so forth, and keep going down the line. That is a form of normalization. Now, some disadvantages: it increases the size of the database, causes data inconsistency sometimes, decreases efficiency of the database, and may create data corruption. Yes, all those are possible, but you could plan for those and prevent that from happening. All right, and that's pretty much it on the design data model aspect of it. What I'm going to show you in the next video is I'm going to show you how to reverse engineer this. And what that means is take this and produce it into source code. Then what we'll do after we produce in the source code, I'll show you how to do that and how to create your schema. After that, we'll walk through. So this is mod. This mod right here is how to create a database design. So this is for this week, and we will also, in the next video, we'll talk about how to create a database by actually writing code. So we'll talk about how to create a database. We'll talk about how to reverse engineer this into code. We'll talk about how to create a table, and that won't be what we did here by going in here and doing this. I'll show you the right way of doing it is by a script. We'll also talk about how to insert data into a table, how to alter tables, truncate tables, and drop tables. So all those will be in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.